Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. There's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The most important news and editorial of the day that is relevant for both prelims and mains examination perspective of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 22nd of November. The first important news that is Center launches India's first suicide prevention policy, something very important considering the fact that the number of suicide has increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. Second, Center sets standard for the e-commerce reviews. Third, that is the Great Nicobar strategic imperative and ecological concern. This is regards to the development which taking place in a specific region of the Great Nicobar. Fourth, Army to produce ballistic seals and body worn cameras. And the last is an editorial new frontier in this space. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I begin this session, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. Starting session, the first news that is Center launches India's first suicide prevention policies. This particular news is important for General Studies Paper 2, that is issues related to development and management of health. Also important in the same topic, where the topic listed is government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors. The Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has recently announced a suicide prevention strategy, the first of its kind policy that is coming in the country. Talking about the suicide prevention policy, this will be the time-bound action plan and multi-sectoral collaborations will be there to achieve reductions in the suicide mortality by 10% by 2030. So this is something a target that is important for the mains examination. इस तरह की डेटा आप मेंस में यूज करें 10% की टारगेट रखी गई है जो सुसाइड मोर्टेलिटी है उसको कम करने की by 2030. This is what the government has said in the policy that it has come up. The suicide impacts all sections of the society and thus require concentrated and collaborative efforts of an individual for even to help community to the larger extent. Now, what is the aim of this strategy? The strategy broadly speak to establish effective surveillance mechanism for suicides within the next 3 years, and it will establish a psychiatric outpatient department. जिस तरह से OPD होती है हॉस्पिटल में उस तरह की psychiatric outpatient department बनाई जाएगी. This is OPD, right? POD will be there, and that will provide suicide prevention services through district mental health program in all districts within the next 5 years. Right? The policy will integrate the mental well-being curriculum in all educational institutions within the next 8 years. So there will be an academic part also that will be incorporated. This envisages for the development of the guideline for the responsibility of media, basically reporting suicides restriction access mean to suicide. So there will be some restriction in terms of the development that is taking place. Even now, if you report all this kind of thing, it also create a negative sense to the society. The stress on developing community resilience, societal support for the suicide prevention will be the part of it. Now, while the strategy is in line, WHO Southeast Region Strategy for Suicide Prevention is also working with the Government of India collaboration to reduce the suicide mortality in the country. Now, death due to suicide की अगर बात करें इंडिया की, specifically more than 1 lakh people lost their life due to suicide, and these are the top killer for the age group 15 to 29, the most potential age group of our country. Now, for in the past 3 years, the suicide rate has increased to 10.2 to 11.3% for the per lakh people. The most common reason for the suicide include family problems, illness, which account for 34 and 18% of the suicide related to the deaths. Now we have some data that is hanging. What was a report? This was published by the National Crime Record Bureau. So if you see the data, self-inflicted injuries की वजह से कितनी percent है, firearms, even jumping, and the highest is by poisoning. This is what has been reported. Now, in the pandemic, as I've told you in the beginning, that this was a time when also the number has jumped up. So for the student, the number was 21.2%. For personal and salaried person was 16.5%. Daily wage earners में जो number है 15.6% तक देखी गई है. Suicides, retired person 11.9 and unemployed person that is 11.65%. This was reported by the Accidental Deaths and Suicide report. Now moving to the other news, Center set standard for e-commerce reviewers, something important for General Studies paper 2, under the subtopic government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from it, design and implementations. So recently, the Consumer Affairs Department has launched a framework to safeguard and protect the consumer interest from fake and deceptive news or reviews in the e-commerce website. So what is that? Basically, if e-commerce site you can in India, there are two major players, that is Amazon and Flipkart. तो कई बार reviews भी promote होती हैं, that is called alternative marketing. So in that, basically it confuse the customer on the reviews part, right? तो यहाँ पे जो कंज्यूमर है उनके इंटरेस्ट को ध्यान में रखते हुए पूरी फ्रेमवर्क बनाई गई है दैट हाउ दिस थिंग कैन बी टेकन केयर ऑफ. The standard will be applicable for every online platform which publishes the consumer review. So very important. Even this will help you in the case study paper. General studies की paper 4 जो case studies के हैं वहाँ पे भी आपको काफ़ी help करेंगे. The department launched the framework that is Indian Standard जो ISO है 19,000-2022 Online Consumer Review Principle and Requirement of the Collective Moderations and Publications. The standard will be initially be voluntary for the compliances for all e-commerce platform. The Bureau of Indian Standard will develop the conformity assessment scheme for the standard within 15 days to assess the compliances. Now, responsibility of author and administrator की बात की गई है. There is a specific position that has been assigned, and what is the role of them? So the framework prescribed the specific responsibility for reviewers and authors and the reviewer administrator. These responsibilities include confirming acceptance of terms and conditions, providing contract informations by reviewer authors. We're responsible to include the safeguard personal information and training of the staff by the reviewer administrator. So there's a whole bunch of setup which is there to look into the matter of review that is ongoing. Now, responsibility of organizations की अगर बात करें, the standard provide for the organizations उनकी भी responsibility है which include developing the code of practice, necessary stipulations of terms and conditions like accessibility criteria, ensuring content that does not financial information or etc. Right, so something which cannot misguide the consumer. So the standard provide methods for verifications of review author through email addresses, identifying of the telephone calls or SMS, confirming registration by clicking on a link, using the capture system which is there, and check trackability and genuineness of the reviewer author. Now, इस तरह के जो measures हैं उनकी क्या advantages होंगे? The standard is expected to benefit all stakeholders on e-commerce ecosystem which the consumer e-commerce platform sells. This will help and assert the confidence among the consumer to purchase goods online and help them to take better purchase decision and not be misguided with any review which is tilted towards favoring a brand. Now moving to the other news, development of Great Nicobar strategy, basically development of Great Nicobar which call for strategic imperative and ecological concern. This particular news is important for General Studies paper 3 that is conservation, environmental pollutions, degradation and EIA. This is from the explain page of the Indian Express. Recently, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has given environmental clearances for the ambitious 72,000 crore development project on the strategically important Great Nicobar Island, and the project is to be implemented in the 3 phases over the next 30 years. So this is again a concern with regards to that particular area, and how the development process will take place is again a significant point. Now, proposed of a greenfield city की बात की गई है. Greenfield city has been proposed, including an international container transporter terminal, a greenfield international airport, a power plant, a township for personnel who will be implementing the project. The MOEF has given clearances to the project in the Great Nicobar Island, and here map work also become very important for the prelims examination perspective. Now, the proposed port will allow the Great Nicobar to participate in the regional and global maritime ecology by becoming a major player in the cargo transshipments. Now, control and regulations की अगर बात करें, the port will be controlled by Indian Navy, right? Because there's a security concern that is also there. While the airport will have a dual military civilian functions that will cater tourism as well, because you cannot deny the fact that this is a beautiful place which even call for a lot of tourism in our country, even worldwide. Roads, public transport, water supply, waste management facilities होंगी, where several hotels will also be planned to cater the tourists. तो ये सारी डेवलपमेंट की जाएगी ताकि टूरिज्म को भी प्रमोट किया जा सके इस रीजन में. Development activities are proposed to commence the current financial year, that is expected to commence by 2027 and 2028. Government ने already national tourism policy. This is something that will also the part of the development. More than 1 lakh new direct job is expected to there. 1.5 indirect job will also be developed and likely to cater the island over the period of development. So you can see these are the region. Here actually the government, you can see the pinpointed location which is there. Government is developing this region. For the map work, something become important. This is Andaman Nicobar. This is Andaman Sea, Bay of Bengal, Sri Lanka, and Lakshadweep, right? So this is the southernmost part of India. Now the island, the Great Nicobar and the southmost Andaman and Nicobar has an area of 910 square kilometer. And the Andaman and Nicobar are the cluster of 836 islands in the eastern Bay of Bengal and two group which is separated by 150 wide 10-degree channel. This particular news is also important for the prelims point of view for your geography and also for the mains paper, right? जिन बच्चों की mains में geography optional है उनके लिए भी काफी relevant है. Now the Andaman lies in the north of the channel and even the Nicobar to the south. Now Indira Point is the southernmost tip of the Nicobar Island and India's southernmost point, less than 150 kilometers from the northmost island of the Indonesian archipelago. And even the Great Nicobar is home to two national parks, that is a biosphere reserve जिसको Sompen and Nicobar's tribal people reside करते हैं वहाँ पे, and along with the ex-servicemen of Punjab, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh who settled in the island in 1970. Tourism potential की अगर बात की जाए इस region पे, if you are being asked to write the potential of tourism, you can highlight that the island has the tourism potential, but the government great goal is to leverage the location advantage of the island of the economic strategic region. The proposed development of the Great Nicobar was floated in 1970 and it's important for national security and consolidated Indian Ocean region. The proposed massive infrastructure development and ecological importance are the fragile region, including the feeling of almost a million tree and harmed many environmentalists also. So we have to see whether the protest for this project will also be there. The loss of tea cover will not only affect the flora and fauna in the region, but it will also lead to increase of runoff sediment deposit in the ocean, impacting the coral reef in the area. That has called a question from the expert panel, and the expert opinion is there that this will definitely have a detrimental effect in the marine ecosystem as well. Now, government ने कुछ measures लिए हैं that how the things can be done. India has successfully translocated coral reef from Gulf of Mannar to Gulf of Kutch earlier. The Zoological Survey of India, that is ZSI, is currently process of assessing how much the reef will be reallocated for the project. The government has said that the conservation plan for the leatherback turtle is also being in place. So we'll ensure that the number of no turtle back deaths should be reported during the development process. According to the government, the expedition of the project is a paramount for the national security and strategic importance. Now moving to the other news, Army to produce ballistic seals and body-worn cameras, something important for General Studies Paper 3, that is various security forces, agencies and their mandate. So Indian Army has recently issued a request for proposals for procurement of 70,000 body-worn cameras and ballistic seals to be produced under emergency procurement through the fast-track procurement route, which is also known as FTP route, right? Now, ballistic seals क्या होती है? Ballistic seals have a minimum, basically this is what government is looking forward with, कि minimum indigenization content जो है 50% हो and manufacturers should provide 60-month warranty for the ballistic seals, right? And the weight sheet should be not more than 20 kg. This is what the procedures, that how it will be made. And the margin can go up to 5% after including the ballistic viewpoint of the accessories. So these are the cells that will be used by the army personnel or the defense personnel to protect them during the wartime. The seals have a service for a life of 5 years, right? So this will be valid for the 5 years, after which a maintenance or discardment can also be there. It should provide support to harness and enable hand-free cuttage of the ballistic shield, ensuring an underlying hindrance and uses of the personal weapons balance the weight and distributions once fully worn. So this is how the things will work, and it will definitely call for the further development which will take place. Now, body worn cameras. The body worn camera is a small audio and video device that will be attached to the shoulder uniform. The device is used for recording video images during the counter emergencies. The ballistic seals would be very helpful in preventing the casualties and room intervention during the anti-terror operations. Right. So this is how it will take place. Now, emergency financial power दी गई है, right? So, financial emergency power will be granted to armed forces, and this was there by the Defense Ministry, right? So, this will help to get the funding that is done in terms of development, right? And post Uri surgical strike, Balakot strike, and 2020 stand up, which was there in the eastern Ladakh, things will be taken into consideration. Under the fast track procurement route, the forces can procure weapons 300 crore urgent basis without further clearances that to have to cut short the procurement process. Now, moving to the editorial of the day, new frontier in this space, something important for general studies paper 3, that is achievement of India in science and technology, Indianization of technology, and development of new technology. So what we'll be looking into this editorial, first talking about the theme, that is space sector in the triple P mode. We'll be looking into the Vikram space rocket, जो Prarambh mission है जो start की गई है, that is the initial mission or the Prarambh missions, role of private sector, India's journey in achievement, and the way ahead. So recently, India has launched its first private rocket, which is named as Vikram S. The rocket has been developed by Skyroot Aerospace, which is a Hyderabad-based company, and this was launched by the launch of Vikram S in India has made a debut for the private people entering into the aerospace sector or the space sector. So this is a classical example of triple P mode that is taking place in our country. Government has even leveraged or liberalized this sector to enter and appreciate the participants of the players which is there from the private place. Now, about the Vikram S rocket, is a single stage suborbital launch vehicles which would have 3 customer payload to test and validate the majority of technology Vikram series of the space launch vehicles. It is meant to test nearly 80% of all system and processes before the launch of Vikram 1, which is scheduled for the next year. And Skyroot की अगर बात करें, this can be built for the Vikram S missions ready for such because of the invaluable support system from ISRO and space, that is a commercial arm of the ISRO, which stands for Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. Now, Prarambh mission, this is the initial, also known as the initial mission or starting mission, is aimed at carrying 3 payload, including 2.5 kilogram payload that has been developed by the student from several countries. The Prarambh mission is Vikram S rocket was developed by the Hyderabad startup. Extensive support दी गई है ISRO और InSpace की तरफ से, ताकि इस measures जो ली गई हैं private players की वो सक्सेस होके और इंडिया में ऐसे और जो प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स हैं, खास करके जो नए स्टार्टअप्स हैं, उनको भी अप्रिशिएट किया जा सके. Role of private player in the sector, 21st century, the role of private sector is very important and it's expanding. Amazon की अगर बात करें, Kuiper plans है, which has planning to launch 3,000 satellite in the years to come and including the broadband internet. एयरटेल ने पार्टनर किया OneWeb के साथ ताकि वो इस तरह के डेवलपमेंट कर सके और नियरली 500 ऐसे छोटे बड़े सैटेलाइट्स है जो उनको लॉन्च करनी है. द बिजनेस ऑफ the launch vehicle, the most demanding space activities, has remained the monopoly until recently. The private sector rise has been complemented by growing international corporations to realize new commercial possibilities in the space sector. Now, India's journeys and achievement. India has emerged out of the past technology isolations. There are new imperatives that has been there. And one of the growing ranges is the new space possibilities, from using satellite for delivering the broadband internet to mining and moon and space manufacturing for the deep sea explorations. Currently, India share a global space that is 2% in terms of the global space. So India की share और बढ़नी है. Then the policy that the government has come up will augment the India share overall. Second is raising the Indian space sector to the global space economy, which will be done by the private sector players. Companies will be playing a major role in the overall development. Considering the example, a large number of private companies are involved in US Artemis project, which is returning to the moon. Now, third is growing weight of international cooperation in the national space program. If Apollo was purely a national project of United States, the Artemis program, which is a multinational endeavor between the US and its partner, including France, Canada, and Japan, why not India can have a triple P mode for any mission that is ongoing, right? A private player which is responsible, calling for the national development and recognition in the global level should be appreciated by the government. Now, what is the way ahead? India is just about to embark a program to enhance the contributions of the private sectors. It is also drawing a foreign capital to support the startup. Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund, that is GIC, for example, has a major investor in Skyroot that was launched by the Vikram S rocket. India is coming to terms, in fact, international cooperation not just an odd, but the national space program must be integral part of the Indian space strategy. तो प्राइवेट प्लेयर की जब contributions हुई है, it will definitely call for augmenting the overall prospects of the space sector, and a direct question in the mains examination is expected in this regard. तो मेंस में आपसे डायरेक्ट सवाल पूछे जा सकते हैं that how the space sector, augmenting the space sector and the role of the private player can help the overall development of the sector. This is not only for the aircraft, this will also call for the space sector, be it is missile system or any other defense manufacturing. तो पूरी एक होलिस्टिक डेवलपमेंट के लिए प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स की क्या पोटेंशियल हो सकती है, इस पे डायरेक्ट एनालिटिकल सवाल पूछे जा सकते हैं. Now moving to the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is C. For second question, the correct option is C again. Today's MCQ for practice, inner line permit के बारे में आपको बताना है. It's issued by the Union Ministry of Home Affairs. The system is enforced in the Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram and Manipur, right? So you need to understand how the ILP work and what are the concept behind it, because the question can be framed in the prelims. Now, COVAX program के बारे में. COVAX is led by the Vaccine Alliance Gavi, the World Health Organization and Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovations. The aim of the program is to ensure equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccine globally. So do check out for the correct options. These are some of the important questions that you can practice before the actual prelims examination. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, do let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.